The following video is going to show and demonstrate a number of the functions that are provided with Carlson Civil for working with section files. You'll find section files in Carlson Civil under the section menu, and we're going to look at input edit section files. First thing you want to do is select a file to work with, and I'm going to start with just an existing ground section file. Section files are generated through road network. They may also be generated through the process road command. So either one of those methods will generate those. You can also generate section files through digitizing with our Takeoff software, and again have tools inside Takeoff to work with inputting and editing the section files. In this case, we're going to look at this existing ground section, and you can see that it's a fairly uniform slope. We've got 3 points in this section file. Buttons at the bottom allow us to do a number of things. We can obviously hit OK or cancel to exit this dialog box. Sort will organize these in a decreasing number, so starting with the negative numbers and going on up. Up or down allows us to move a selected point up or down. You'll notice that it does change in the preview at the same time. Move them back up where he belongs. The tie point is used when we have two section files, and we'll look at that a little bit later. F2 and F3 will be used to move you to the previous section file or the next one. So as we step through these, we can see this section file has a few more points in it, and they vary depending on the section. We have a drive option that allows you to define a speed at which you'd like to go through the sections. When you hit OK, we start stepping through the sections, and you'll see them update here as we go through. We can stop, and that returns us back to our standard view. We also have a slider bar that, if you watch the section number up here, you'll notice allows me to move very quickly to a specific area of my project, and then I can use the zoom extents to bring that back into focus there. We have zoom extents, zoom in, zoom out. We have a dynamic zoom, which allows me to click and drag to zoom. And we also have a pan mode available to you. Vertical exaggerations, I've selected a 2:1, which is a common exaggeration for cross sections. But you can also have 5 or 10:1, or what we call a fit view, which is the maximum exaggeration we can fit on the screen. Going back to our 2:1. Show subgrades will make a little more sense when we have a section file that has subgrades. But I wanted to look at some of the other toggle options here. Show tick marks only. Gets rid of the full grid and just has our tick marks for elevations and offsets. Auto zoom all sets an auto zoom as you move from section to section. So if we go to the next section, it will automatically zoom for us. Show slope when zoomed in. So as you zoom in, or maybe as I zoom out here, you'll notice that some of the slopes disappear. And as I zoom back in, they're displayed again for us. We can also have it show descriptions. These would be your template ID points with a design file. And we have dynamic grid resizing. So as I zoom in, the grid resizes itself. So now I'm looking at 10-foot intervals. We zoom in some more. I can get to 5-foot intervals, and so on. That can be helpful when you're doing editing to have it resize as you zoom in. So those are some of the very quick items here. We can also add rows, remove rows. If you add a row, it inserts it above the highlighted row. When you remove a row, it removes the row that is highlighted. We'll look at extend pavement again when we get a design section loaded into our viewer here. One of the things I did want to demonstrate with this section file is one of the tools back on our main input edit section files, and that is our reduce option. What reduce allows me to do is specify the station range I want to operate on through the drop list and set an offset cutoff. So when we think about this section, if I can remove this vertex with impacting my slope or my line by less than my offset cutoff, this point will be removed. To demonstrate how this would work, I'm going to use a value that is probably higher than normal. Something I would say between 1,000th and 100th would be more common. I'm going to actually use 0.5, half a foot. When I click OK, it processes all of my sections. So now when I review this, you'll notice that I have 2 shots in each section file. All of the other intervening shots have been removed because it could be done without impacting that line by more than half a foot. So now that we have our section file completed, to get it back to its original version, you always have the option when editing, if you don't like the edits you did, to click exit, and when you're prompted to save, say no. We'll now go back to our section input edit section file, and this time I'm going to grab a roadway finish section. This is a design section file, and I'm going to add a second file which is the existing sections under that. These were both generated using Road Network. So now if I double click and edit this, I can zoom in using a wheel mouse in this case, and I can see my tie points, and these are the labels that we talked about here, which are show descriptions, my center, my edge of pavement, my tie point. They're also labeled here in the description column. Any of these points can be edited through the table. So I can simply go in and type new values here. So that's always one option I have. When we look at the sort option, when you're working with design sections, be a little cautious with this option because it will sort these according to offset, and you'll notice that these are not necessarily in numeric order. So my 13 5s would move above this 12, and it will reshape your section. So be a little careful with this on design sections. The tie option should only be used when you are highlighted on a tie point, where the description says tie. When we launch this, you tell it which side you're on, left or right, and you have several methods to choose from for how to tie this. Percent grades, ratios, continuing the last slope. So if I had a slope in here at 3:1, I could just tell it to continue whatever that was. We can tie vertically, or I can specify an offset distance to tie at. In this case, we're telling it to tie to that second section file that I selected. But you can also specify an elevation. This will be a point that it ties to elevation-wise that is independent of what a second surface may be doing. So do keep that in mind as well. If I'm using an offset option here, then it activates my offset down here, and I can force it to tie at a specific distance. Go ahead and cancel that guy for now. And the other one we wanted to look at here, yeah, we can turn off the description so you see those go away. And show subgrades. When we turn that off, you notice all we have left is our finish grade. Here we get our subgrade displayed again. So that's how that works. One of the other options that works nicely when you have a design section is the extend pavement subgrade. So I'm going to move down this list to my edge of pavement and click the extend pavement subgrade option. The current offset is at -12 feet. If I change that to -15, and because I'm on the left I do want to be minus, it automatically will recognize we're extending this 3 feet. I'm toggled on to update the tie point as this moves out. So when I click OK, this point is going to move 3 feet out and it will retie to the existing ground. So you notice now that my edge of pavement is at -15 and the subgrades moved with it. So it's a simple way as I'm editing my section file to go in and make adjustments to certain widths of segments. Go ahead and click OK. Some of the other options that we have from the main dialog out here. We can translate sections. What this allows me to do is adjust the station. So I can come in and tell it that I want to change my stations, and we'll just do a small number here, say the first 3, by 1. When I click OK, you'll notice I now have station plus 01, plus 51, 1 plus 01, and so it simply updated those. I can put them back by using the translate command again, and this time doing stations and -1 over that same station range. So we'll put those back here real quick. Okay. Scaling stations again allows you to specify the station range, but is used most commonly to convert from one scale to another, say from English units to metric units. And so you can set that scale and scale your offsets and elevations as well as your stations to reflect that change. Deleting stations should be self-explanatory. You can do that by station range, a number of different options there. Reducing stations we looked at already. Sorting, if you're adding stations, you're doing digitizing, you may want to sort these because they may not have all come in order as you're digitizing. Combining stations, again, when you're digitizing, you may end up digitizing the same station more than once, and this allows you to combine the same station numbers. Interpolating can be a single station, or you can do an interval, say every 10 or 25 feet, and it's based on a starting and ending station. So it will work either beyond that point or within that distance between these two stations and interpolate on this station interval. You can use a reference profile, so it will look at your profile to set the elevations. You can also offset the descriptions as you're doing the interpolation. You can copy stations, so if I need this exact same cross section at, say, station 0 plus 25, I can add that station in, and now it looks exactly like my station 1. I don't have existing ground there because my second cross section doesn't have it. I would need to go in and edit this one. One of the things to be aware of is as I'm editing, I am only editing the first section file. Second section file is purely for reference. So we looked at copying. You can rename a station. I'm going to go ahead and delete that 25 station here as long as we're playing with these. Tie station allows me to set up my tie method and the slope that I want to use. Percent, ratio, continue last slope, or vertical. I can specify what that slope should be and have it tie all of those sections. I can add subgrades manually. So if I don't have subgrades, I can actually come in, give it a name, give it an offset, minus 12 feet, 12 feet on the right, depth of 2 feet, and have it intersect straight up. And we're going to select a station range for this. Existing subgrades found, clear those, no. So now when we go in, you can see we've added this additional subgrade tying vertically in. So you can add those manually as well. This will save any edits you've made, or you can save them out to a new section file. Again, keep in mind you can always go in and exit and decide I don't want to save those edits, I don't want to add that subgrade, and I can say no. Hopefully this has been a good introduction for you to the Carlson Input Edit section routine. If you have questions, feel free to contact Carlson Software. Thank you.